You guys would have to have really good memory for this, but I uploaded a game. It was Capoch versus God of the Godless on Four Lakes. I think I uploaded it 3 months ago, and it was like it was crazy micro versus all in aggression. And I talked about how God of the Godless, who is a German player, experiments with YOLO strategies. At the time, he had this crazy goth build. What?
Show video.
No. Thank you very, very much. I'm not YouTube. If this ever goes to YouTube, there's no video. And don't even ask questions, okay? Brand, chat, smileys in chat, say there's no video as a thank you to Brand for that donation. I regret bringing it up. Brand, you're amazing. Let me continue my intro here. Anyways, God of the Godless would go for these crazy all-in strategies. And recently, he's been picking Saracens. So I think he's going to go for a more well-known all-in play with the Civ that so heavily relies on the market. And we might see a lot of archers, a lot of crossbows, and those things also do extra damage against buildings too. So I really like this player because I remember him from the Voobly days, and he was not someone who went YOLO back then, but he also comparatively was not as high rated. So I think he achieves his rating through YOLO plays, but it's not like Huang, where he always does the same thing. He actually likes to pick civs and practice it and try and improve on it. So it's pretty respectable, I'd say. Not that Huang isn't respectable, but we'll see where this takes him. And he is up against Wasepi. Wasepi is played for many years, like all the players who play at this level. And Wasepi is one of the best Chilean players in the game. He was actually hanging out in chat earlier. And Wasepi was begging for me to cast his friend, who then died immediately after. So,
all the luck in my job search. Your stream takes my mind off things.
I'm sure Whitecourt is really hoping that Wasepi also gets smashed. But Wasepi, if you watch this in the future, it's been cool knowing you. I used to play Wasepi back in the HD days, I think. So I've known him for like 6 years or so, and we play a lot together nowadays. I think God of the Godless is coming back from a rather large break. I know he's been playing for the last week or two, but I think it was gone for a few months. I wasn't seeing him around. Yeah, Tar says Whitecourt is back. He was playing earlier. He's around 2K already, so he's back and playing some games. So far, really could be anything. Don't lose it! Okay, saved. Oh god. Yeah, okay, saved. Yeah, it really could be anything for God of the Godless, but my guess is it's going to be a scout opening. Brand Varm, are you the guy who just donated too? Or is that another Brand? He's asking for the Eagle of the players. God of the Godless is... Actually, I could just tab out and show you. He's a little mid 2K, and Wasepi's just over 2K1. So... Wasepi's probably ranked around 70th or 80th, and God of the Godless is maybe ranked like a little past 100. Somewhere around there. What's up, Mazar? And thanks to everyone else for welcoming me back. Glad to be back. I think today I'll probably do another hour or two. I'm trying to pace myself getting back into this, because when you don't cast for a week, you're just not used to it. And it can take a toll on your energy and then your vocal cords. So I'll cast for another hour or two here, and I'll be back with community games tomorrow. Tomorrow might also be on the shorter side, like maybe only 6 hours, 7 hours of community games before King of the Desert all weekend. So Wasepi's probably going to go scouts with Franks. That's the norm, and no question there. I don't like how forward some of these resources are for Wasepi. But the back area is great. You've got the gold stones, wall potential. The norm is to see 5 more villagers go to wood and another lumber camp. I'd place it here. And then you micro them on either side. Let's see if we agree. Very important. That's just as good, I guess. What's the plan for God of the Godless? 11 to wood. It wasn't more than the norm, but yeah, it looks like it could also be a scout build here. Oof. God of the Godless probably should have garrisoned there. Whoa.
أمر.
Okay. Hey, question for the viewers out there. When is the map pool updated again?
نعم.
نعم.
Because it's every 2 weeks, but I don't know exactly when it came out. Does anyone know? Next week when? Is it like late next week? Because I really want to cast Low Evil Legends on Tuesday with Nile Delta as a map.
أمر.
I just want to see what noobs do on that. So, is it always on Tuesday? But it's like Tuesday night, right? October 20th. I don't think it's on Tuesday. Is it? I don't know. I was just curious. I felt like Low Evil Legends with some of these maps might be good. Well, I say some of them. Half of them would be bad, but Steam says October 20th. That's actually my buddy's birthday. That's on a Tuesday. Okay. All right, well, we'll just hope for the best then. Okay, stable. And now market. Not going to gold, but going for the early market God of the Godless. Interesting. Whereas over here, Wasepi's going to be adding scouts. Probably a few spears. And some walls and farms. Standard stuff. All around. All right. Good hits there for God of the Godless on that scout, which before that had more HP. A lot to do to wall up this side, though. That's going to be really annoying. God of the Godless should run back. Does. Now an archer range. I don't understand. I don't understand. Wait, you're not on gold yet. What? You don't have gold, dude. 2 ranges before gold.
مستعد.
I mean, he sold the stone. Okay, now we're going to gold. Let's see how this balances out. Okay, now everything's gonna go to gold, except for the weak villagers. All right. I told you he has YOLO builds.
أمر.
He tends to have these builds sorted. Like he used to have a build with Goths where he could make man-at-arm, like 10 man-at-arms and fast-fletching skirmishers, and then he would idle his TC, much like Huang does.
مستعد.
There, he'll just run back to the TC. Vil could definitely die. Yeah, Wasepi will have to think better of it and retreat. Let's see. Bloodlines already coming in, just tapping up that market here.
أمر.
Like it. So with Bloodline Scouts, you'll be looking at 65 HP against the 54 from Franks, and Franks can't get Bloodlines. All right, Helios. I didn't watch that series. I watched some of a few other sets. I think you're confusing it. You're confusing the players. All right, so despite Bloodlines being in there, there's 2 spears, and he's got to back away. All right. Blacksmith is not up yet, so no fletching for the archers, but the archers will still be helpful. And Wasepi is really probably surprised at how many archers are out right now. Very early for this. Especially for 2 range archers. And you know what? He's pulling it off right now. Now, Wasepi's going to add a range, and Wasepi's going to go for skirms. But here's the problem for Wasepi. If the archer numbers get too high, and there's still scouts out for God, then the archers will just bust right through the palisade walls and run in. So you're not completely safe with a late archer range like this. Now, against the Saracen play, you just have to weather the storm and normally get up to the next stage faster. Get some type of a power spike there. This is pretty sick stuff from God of the Godless. He's gonna have fletching in already. Now he only has 8 on food, so he's not gonna be able to up the castle age as fast as Wasepi can. But let's see what damage he can do. Yo, Bisharno and everyone else that is really confused about the overlay. The overlay is broken. It does not work on this patch. And it will not work on any other patches coming forward. However, it will work in King of the Desert because King of the Desert is played in the previous patch. And there might be we might be getting something else that replaces it at some point, but yeah, I will have it for the weekend King of the Desert cast. See, this is what I mean against Saracens. If you build up on the front, this could be dangerous for you. But I think God is just waiting for the army from Wasepi to arrive. And Wasepi actually will take a very good fight here. It should be a very good fight for him because the archers for God of the Godless were not engaging against the scouts. I don't think he was expecting that many scouts either. Yeah, so I say advantage Wasepi right now, certainly economically. So does God try and go castle? He does. This is really interesting. I'm not saying you should play every game like this. But you notice how he just switched up and sold and bought a lot of things to try and go castle? Only 7 on food, though. I would build a second mining camp, too. That is way too messy. And also, no way to defend yourself at home. You don't have the stone anymore, but... I would say scouts. You get a few more scouts out in the meantime, you might be okay. T90, but then what happened to the plans of integrating it into AoE natively? Bisharno, I think you're talking about Capture Age, and they're working on something. All right. Wasepi's still not up. So Wasepi was definitely, he maybe invested into too many skirmishers. Well, not really, he didn't have that many. Maybe too many scouts, it delayed his uptime. The power of the Saracens and their market. We're seeing it right here. Thank God of the Godless is in a nice position. This is some sick stuff here, guys. I know I'm coming off as a bit of a fanboy here, and I know we've seen Saracens do this before, but he went 2 ranges, stable opening with like 4 farms, and he's making it work. Sick. The thing about casting with Dave is you never know when he's going to show up. So I spoke to Dave about casting with me this weekend, and I'm hoping he will stop by, yes. I'm pretty confident he'll be here this weekend. Yeah, you don't... He's got a lot of other things going on, so it's just... I let him know, like, hey, this time, this place, and we always see if he shows up. Okay, should I be concerned? There is a fire rescue paramedic unit outside of my place. Is my girlfriend dying? Okay, they just drove past the house. That was really weird. All right, here comes the crossbow upgrade. And I think Wasepi's going to need that paramedic unit in a moment. Maybe that's what they heard about. This could be bad. This could be really bad. Now, what do you take out here? If you're God of the Godless, and you see that there's house walls behind the palisades, which I have to say is a very good move, what do you choose to take out? I think the way to go is, if you're going to take out a building, that is you take out the stable. But if you take out the stable, it's going to take longer. And maybe taking out the house is the way to kill villagers fast. I figured if you take out the stable, at least that's one less stable for Wasepi to make knights with. We'll see. He's gone for the house route. Has knights coming up behind this. Now Wasepi... See, this is what I mean. Like, now at this point, Wasepi is going to have 2 stables to produce knights from. Really well played from Wasepi. To know that you need to have the house walls behind. That was huge. We'll have +2 knights, and all of a sudden, I think that the lack of eco for God of the Godless is becoming obvious to me now. Couldn't afford quite as much. Hasn't killed anything yet. Starting to add a few farms and whatnot, but overall the balance isn't quite there. And Wasepi will go 3 TCs, which I think is so risky. Like, I think what I would do in this situation, of course, if it's easy to say, but I think what you should be thinking about is adding the second town center and then putting the 275 wood you want to put into the 3rd TC into more farms. Because he does not have the food income to produce knights out of 2 stables and villagers out of 3 TCs. So you have to choose. When you add the 3rd TC, you normally decide to produce out of the 3rd TC, which then will lead you to this type of situation. I like the camel edition. That's good. The vill count is in the bottom left. It's hard to see because we don't have a casting overlay. Down goes that stable. If the siege comes out, there's melee units for God of the Godless, but he can't really go underneath the town centers. This is a bit risky in some situations, but it's a good move from Wasepi to just go forward. Even if it was just to pick off reinforcement there. If you know someone's all-inning you, heading to their base and making them leave yours is the best way you can do it.
Hey man, I'm a scientist and research on the influence of drugs on people's behavior in big groups. If you have any video material you can show me, feel free to do it live on stream.
What? I'm gonna have to say no to that one. Thank you for the donation. That TC is all but denied. It will end up going up, but big losses there for God of the Godless. 53 villagers now for Wasepi, who's playing very clean. Oh, I see what you... It was a joke about the... No, I'm not showing you that video. I'm so slow. I didn't realize that was a joke about me. No, I'm not showing you that. Yeah, I mean, everything's nice, neat, and tidy here for Wasepi. He's got the walls up. He's secure. He's just gotta weather this storm, and he needs to make more stables, I think. You just know that God of the Godless wants to take out the Mangonel. I don't think he can. Maybe he can get one of them. This one's a bit... I think most players would repair that Mangonel and be fine here. Wasepi didn't do that. It's because Wasepi's too nice. He's too nice to repair. Even though repairing would probably win him the game, he's just like, nah. I'll let you take out my 2 Mangonels, no problem. I think Wasepi's under pressure at the moment. 700 wood. His stables. He has 9 on food. Wasepi's freaking out. He is freaking out. He does not have the amount on food that he needs. He's about to lose the stables. And let's look at God of the Godless. God of the Godless on 2 town centers. Honestly, could boom from this point without using the market abuse, so we could see a 3rd. So how many stables have gone down so far? We've seen 2 stables go down and the 3rd's about to go down. But I think what could be good for Wasepi is just how many knights he has. I just don't know if he can engage before healing up. All right. So 65 vills for Wasepi. 53 for God of the Godless. God of the Godless has double the military. So double the military, but half the military is very low HP in crossbows. Still very effective. But I think you're going to need more crossbows and maybe a few more camels if you're God of the Godless. As he's beginning to even melt houses over here. Alright. 3rd TC for God of the Godless. Ballistics on the way. We've got to be more attentive to the upgrades that are coming in. I just hate having to look here to see. Like, this is so bad. The Spectals that were built in the DE were just... They're like, nah. T90's annoying. We want him to be stressed out. It's so hard for me to get used to. I'm so glad we can use the casting overlay at least for King of the Desert. Ooh. Why are the camels not in front here? Good Miker with the crossbows. You patrol in with the camels. There will be conversions in the end. This will end up being pretty good for Wasepi if he's able to get a Mangonel shot. All right, well, he'll try and run up the hill. I think the crossbows could micro down all the knights, though. He's trying his best. Wasepi trying to block. Knights are trying their best to engage. There could be more camels on the way. Oh, this is good for God of the Godless. That's a very good engagement. Now the camels arrive, and Wasepi regrets taking that fight. He did have some room to breathe, but it's not like he needed to take this stone. He already has this stone available. And so I think for God of the Godless, you've got to continue to take map control since the opposition's on the back foot and since they have so many forward resources. I think God of the Godless has shown us that he can play with those YOLO strats and the kind of all-in-ish plays, but he also is showing us now that he can play standard if need be. He's winning this game, and it's slight, but he's winning this game because of the amount of military control he takes. Yeah, that was well done as well to use the knight to take out the Mangonel. I also have a little bit of a soft spot for players that I've experienced a lot of over the years. Both of these players fall under that category, but since God is so unique, it's pretty cool stuff. And I wonder if he's going to come forward and drop a castle here. I think he could justify it. He's got the stone. 75 villagers versus 86. Wasepi's got 11 more. Oh, man. Can you imagine? Now, Wasepi needs more knights. He actually needs more stables. I think knights only is the play, and it's dangerous for God of the Godless to go only crossbows against Knight Mangonel. I say only crossbows when he has camels, but he doesn't have that many camels. And he doesn't have that many camel upgrades.
Your content. Keep it up.
So this is either where God of the Godless decides to just back up a bit, or all-in push. Does he sell a stone? Okay, no, he's building a castle there. Yeah, maybe he chooses to back away. We have seen games with top 10 players today. We've seen games with top 20 players today. Neither of these players are at that level. This is probably the most interesting game I've seen today. So, props to these two. Bring some quality. And Mamelukes! I love Mamelukes! I would prefer to see him make camels. I guess he's doing both, but Mamelukes, let's go. Now, Wasepi has a lot of stone income, so we could see forward castles from him. And he really should be continuing to produce, but he's really scared. He doesn't know if the army from God of the Godless is going to arrive to the left yet. Mamelukes with elite, like elite Mameluke is just sick. Regular Mamelukes, not so much. Oh man, this is sick. There's so much military here. Micro from God of the Godless is on point as he runs this direction. Goes in here. Snipes. No, it doesn't snipe the Mangonel. Oh man, it's so close. This just makes me so happy. Also, it makes me happy Kill My Matrix got here. What's up? Another castle. What's the farm count at right now? 45 for Wasepi, who's imping. God of the Godless is at 30, who's not imping. But he has the best military over the next 2 to 3 minutes. If Wasepi gets to Cavalier and Plate Barding, he could probably kill Camel and Crossbow. But until then, I mean, it's still tough because there's a hill and conversions and Mangonels. But I think God of the Godless, this is his time to fight. I don't know how good it's going to be, but yeah, he has to stop that castle. I think he's just now realized it's going up. That is a bold castle considering there's so much eco still at home for Wasepi. And oh man, the fight. I don't think it denies the castle. And yeah, I don't think God of the Godless can actually take that. So advantage to the Chilean. Castle's right on that gold. Now God of the Godless should probably sell wood, sell stone even, and just go up to imp. And then also, in the meantime, go this way. Because with the hill, the knights can take the fight comfortably. Without the hill, who knows? And also, you're protected on this side because of a castle. I say this all the time. Sometimes the best way to get the opposition to come, to stop attacking you is to attack them. And Wasepi might just... Ooh. Whoa, there's a signal. Why can I see signals now, but I can't see... Did I do that? So we don't have in-game spec chat, but there's signals now? It was probably a misclick from Wasepi anyways, but... yeah, Wasepi's going to have to come back home with what he has to deal with this. So wait a second, are they teasing me now? I can see signals, but I can't see chat? Okay. Yo, that's the MTC. Imagine if he took out the MTC right now. How epic that would be. Oh my god. Oh, I wish it would. Oh, I wish he would have got there earlier. Because he could have done it too. That would have been amazing. But it was the TC where Wasepi was imping. And he still might lose the TC. But Wasepi's still going to have the cav numbers. And truthfully, might not have been the wisest move for God of the Godless, because now God of the Godless... Well, I imagine he doesn't want the crossbows anymore. That's what this tells me. Because he's just saying, hey, come kill me. I know you're going to have upgrades. That's fine.
مستعد.
My units would rather die than go home and do nothing. So it's going to be a full Mamluk switch. If you are not typing Pog or PogChamp or anything like that in my chat right now, your life decisions need to be changed. Wasepi's going Cav. And he's going to clear up the crossbows. But will the Cav be enough against Mamelukes? This has been a great game. Should be a huge, huge lead for now for Wasepi because he's got those upgrades. I don't think he knows that Mameluke's going to be committed to like this. Now let's talk about Mameluke and when they become strong. Mameluke becomes strong with the elite upgrade, which is not very expensive.
نعم.
They become way stronger with the zealotry upgrade, which is pretty expensive. If someone in chat could tell me exactly what the cost of those units, those upgrades are, that'd be helpful. But I want to say it's 750 gold and 450 food for just zealotry. And the units themselves are not that cheap. I don't know the specifics, and we rarely see Mamelukes, so that's the reasoning for it. 500 food, 750 gold? Yeah, okay, so I was not too far off, and I think Elite Mameluke is on the cheaper side. But yeah, the unit is designed to take out Cav, but when you've got your castles being trebbed down, that could be a problem, and maybe for Wasepi, you just raid and force the Mamelukes to react to you, and then you just take map control and take golds, and he's doing that right now. He's also, yep, he sees this. He's going to raid that side. Mamelukes are coming over here now, and I see Axemen being made, and they're elite Axemen too.
نعم.
Wow.
مستعد.
So,
نعم.
Mamelukes against elite throwing Axemen. Zealotry is... Okay, I don't trust you. I'll look to someone else. Okay, cool. Yeah, sometimes if I ask a question and certain people respond, there's... I don't have an actual list, but in my mind, I'm like, this person has made one too many jokes. I don't trust them. But I won't say who, so no one will get offended. All right. So, elite throwing axemen are way cheaper. And these still are not elite Mamelukes. So I would say heavy advantage to Wasepi, who loses the Mangonels. Zealotry is not in yet.
نعم.
Still blacksmith upgrades missing, at least in defense. The Axemen actually outrange at the moment. And they don't have that much less HP. How does a unit that tiny have 70 HP when a unit this big only has 85? Explain that to me. Wasepi all over the place, taking full control. If he takes out the trebs, he'll keep the castles up. And he does. Rip to the trebs, and that might be rip to the hopes and dreams of God of the Godless.
مستعد.
He's at 18 military. Oh, he did also... Oh, he didn't spot that gold. That's unfortunate. Oh, he might not be done yet. He's still got 2 castles, but he needs to keep this one alive or it's game over. He struggled a lot getting the resources, but why do you think a player in Red's position would struggle getting resources for late game upgrades? It's because he didn't play it eco-centric. He didn't have a lot of eco focus throughout the game. He's using the market, and he tried to catch up there.
مستعد.
Not necessarily map control, but just how his eco was set up. He was so dependent on abusing and using the market.
نعم.
Okay, 600 food, 500 gold for elite. 750 food and 700 gold for zealotry. Is zealotry really that expensive? I think that's too much. If that's the case. I honestly don't know if I would have ever thought to go Axeman in this situation. But so far, Axeman and I think just the forward castles in general seem to be working. Oh, and Wasepi's gonna raid on the right. This is perfect. He knows there's exposed eco over here. He knows that God of the Godless would have to pull Mamelukes to deal with that. He knows that God of the Godless, if he pulls the Mamelukes, will lose this castle. This is very good play from Wasepi. I wouldn't say throwing axemen counter Mamelukes, but they do cost a lot less, and it's easier to mass castles to produce them. I also think they produce faster. So the YOLO plays, the all-ins that we've seen, it worked for a time, but in the end, Wasepi ended up being able to weather that storm. Guys, we still have not even seen Elite Mameluke, which is such a shame, but I don't think it would make a difference. The position that Wasepi's in is just too strong. Axeman counter all except Onager. I don't know about all. Longbows definitely have something to say about that, so do plumed archers. But yeah, very good units. It's crazy too, because Franks are so insanely good, even without the Axemen. But we're also seeing elite throwing Axemen against Mamelukes that are not elite yet, or without zealotry, and are lacking zealotry. Yeah, that castle's going down. He's trying to keep it alive. I just don't know what changes if the castle stays up. Well, I guess he maybe takes out the castle from Wasepi. It's fine. Now, the raids were good. Raids were a good idea. And that's something he will now continue on to the left side.
Almost as many months with my sub to you as years in the game. Happy to be here. Happy to have you back.
That awkward moment when you've been selling stone the whole game and then you need to buy it. All right, there you go. That castle goes down, and I think God of the Godless is going to have to give this one up. He was pretty unfortunate to not see this gold, but I don't know if that gold would have changed things. That was an incredible game all around. Like, as I was casting there, I was thinking that if God of the Godless didn't go, if he didn't accomplish a lot in early Castle Age with his YOLO play, that he would be in trouble. And there were downsides to him not accomplishing as much, but he really did rebound with his eco. And then Wasepi, what did he lose? 3, 4 stables? So he lost a lot of stables, and then was fighting camels and crossbows and was still able to get the numbers and have the eco. Now, he did benefit from... He benefited from having the golds in the back, because I think a gold... No, 2 golds and his stone were all in the back, which helped him. I think if that pressure comes in and he has 2 golds forward, it's different. But, you know, if that's your argument, you then have to argue that God of the Godless should scout that and play to the map, right? I'm curious on the food count. Okay. Yeah, this is typical Saracens game, right? If you're going to use the market that much, the other player's going to have more food in wood eco. And it was food that God of the Godless really struggled to get later on in the game. And then more stone and gold eco for God of the Godless. He was buying a lot of resources early. There's the uptimes. Uptimes kind of tell the story of the game. The Saracens player using the market to get the faster castle time. And then Wasepi using his macro to go up to him. You know, I'm actually going to go back to the map here. I want to break this down. It was even 2-2 with relics. And look at all the military right here. But guys, what do you think changed this game? What do you think was the turning point? I'm going to ask chats input first before I move on and talk about what I think was the turning point here. It depends. Okay. Thank you, Tiberius. This is true. I mean, not really, but it's not what I mean. Not getting elite Mameluke, castles. Okay. Throwing crossbows. Okay. And a few people said it. I think that if Wasepi was 30 to 45 seconds later to trying to place the castle here, he doesn't have the control that he has now throughout all of the game. Like, he had this nice little hill, and he'd placed the castle foundation, and he had 2 mangonels with knights. And if there was no castle foundation, I think God of the Godless considers taking that fight. But because the castle foundation, that little choke there, it was really awkward for him to justify fighting up the hill. So maybe if God of the Godless gets a few more camels out and a few more upgrades, and after falling back, pushes right back and takes map control and denies that, like, just imagine if God of the Godless takes a good fight here while Wasepi's imping. Where does Wasepi castle? Like, maybe here, and then God of the Godless has more map control, more time. So I really think this castle kind of swung the game heavily into Wasepi's favor, and that also and imping. Like, going imp first and getting the position is great. Going imp first and losing all control is bad. So he was very fortunate due to that, or not fortunate. He judged it correctly. Someone said in the comments that God of the Godless needed more camel upgrades. It's true, but when you're 10,000 behind in food, there's probably reasons why you don't have the camel upgrades. But that is yet another game where you have players who are not top 25, but around the top 100 or in the top 100 to provide some great entertainment here. That was really fun to watch. Both like the diversity of strategy, the micro, the macro, or lack of macro at times. It was sick. Also, I don't agree that losing the crossbows in early imp was a mistake, because he was never going to be going ARB. That was a result of him feeling like he needed to do damage. That's all. Once he was going to be later to imp and the enemy had that many cavalier, he was always going to be behind. So he didn't have the res to upgrade those units. You could argue maybe he keeps them alive and can use them against the Axemen or something, but yeah, but his units were already forward. They get cleaned up. Like, his units here. I'm not even done. I'm not even done talking about this game. We got to go back. Like, keep in mind his army was here when he saw that Wasepi wasn't imp. So his avenue back would have been through this hole, and I think the cav were right here. So it just would have been swarmed up anyways. So it's the right move to try and do some damage there. I get it. Okay, now I'm done.